All right, welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back.
Two Average Guys. I'm Matt.
And I'm Jimmy.
Welcome back to breakdown week 4 of college football.
Absolutely.
There's some excitement yesterday. Actually, quite a bit of excitement.
Yeah, absolutely.
Probably more than we've had in the last couple weeks. We've had some upsets over the last couple weeks. Had a couple upsets yesterday, along with some potential upsets that didn't end up happening, but really some games to talk about. And to me, we got some teams that are in the top 10, even the top 5 that are going to be pretty questionable going into conference play over the next couple weeks with some pretty tough opponents. And I think it's only the beginning to see really what's going to happen, and are they really going to shape up to be in the top 5 and remain in the top 5, let alone the top 10 at the end of the season.
There's quite a few teams that struggled a little bit.
Absolutely. So let's go into break right down. So we can go right into
Struggled a little bit.
absolutely. So let's go into break right down. So all right, we can go right into.
You gotta close it.
I know. All right. Anyway, so we look at Alabama. Alabama was really the only team in the top 10 that, besides Wisconsin, they come in and they just blanked Vanderbilt.
Yeah, 1 week after Vandy beat 18th ranked K-State.
Yep, they didn't really struggle doing so. Right now Alabama's been strong. They continue to be strong. They still have a quarterback who can't really throw the ball that well, but they haven't needed to. They haven't needed to throw the ball. They've been running the ball just fine.
Well, I don't think there's that many great teams right now in the SEC.
No.
They're all beating each other.
Yeah.
There's just a couple of, teams that are still undefeated in the SEC. So it's just kind of weird. They all beat each other and then they just keep them up in the top 25.
Yeah. Well, that's essentially what happened. So Mississippi State, perfect example. They lost yesterday to Georgia, 31-3. And Mississippi State, they popped into the top 25.
Probably farther than they
after
should
beating LSU, right?
Right.
So they beat LSU, who was already overrated and had ranked higher than they probably should have been. And then they lose. They get their butts kicked by Georgia, who I thought might have been overrated, but they're looking pretty good, and they looked good yesterday against Mississippi State, and they still stay in the top 25. But
just because they're playing Auburn this week.
They are playing Auburn this week, so they got to make the top 25 matchups a little more exciting and actually have another top 25 matchup for ratings and whatnot. So
whatever.
So Alabama won. Number 2, Clemson. So Clemson played Boston College. They ended up beating them 34-7. But
right.
Clemson didn't do anything. Boston College played really strong, and Clemson didn't do anything until the fourth quarter. I think it was 14-7 going into the fourth. So really not a strong showing for Clemson. If you ask me, they're one of the teams that's probably on the hot seat going into conference play.
They had, the last couple of weeks, they had a couple tough games, and they shined. So, have one of those kind of off weeks.
Yeah.
And they still went by 27 points in a conference game.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah. Yep. So, it's a win, but really Boston College showed up pretty strong through 3 quarters, and then Clemson kind of finished them off come the fourth quarter. Then we had Oklahoma played at Baylor. So Oklahoma obviously beat Ohio State week 2, and then ever since then, people have been pretty high on them.
Right.
Baker Mayfield going to Baylor goes on pregame whatever conference or goes on Twitter, whatever the hell it was, and said Baylor needs to remember who their daddy is. I'm gonna come in and spank them. So to me, I don't like the guy anyways.
Why do people say stuff like? I think somebody from Vanderbilt made a comment about how they were gonna do something to Alabama.
Yeah.
They beat them 59-0.
Yeah. So Baker Mayfield, I just think he's the biggest douchebag in college football. I also feel like he's going to be the Bryce Harper of if he goes pro. Not only if he goes pro, but if he plays. If he goes and he plays, he talks that kind of crap in NFL. Someone's going to clean his clock. They're going to get fined, and they're not going to care. Maybe we'll send Ndamukong Suh after him to stomp on his head. I don't know. But Baker Mayfield, I hope you get your clock clean next week. No matter who you play, I really hope that you lose because you're a douche.
But yeah, they struggled with Baylor.
They did. 49-41 win.
It was going back and forth there, too, in the second half.
Well, in the start of the fourth,
Well, yeah.
start of the fourth, I think they went up by 2 or 3 scores in the fourth quarter,
Right.
and then they kind of let Baylor climb right back in. I actually turned the game away to a different game, thinking that the game was over, and then I turned it back. I'm like, oh, they're down by 15. They got a chance of this thing, and then they end up scoring, and then they kick an onside. They get the onside,
Right.
and then of course Oklahoma's defense, they end up forcing a fumble. But it was exciting to watch Baylor, an 0-3 team who's lost to Liberty, UTSA, and who lose to last week.
I'm not.
They're
entirely
they're
sure.
0-3,
They're
but
0-3 now, 0-4.
yeah.
But,
So really not a good showing by Oklahoma.
No, and I think that Oklahoma's, probably realized that Baylor's been going through a rough time,
Yeah.
and that they obviously didn't have a very good start to the season, losing to an FCS team and
Yeah.
some, not big name teams, and they just thought they were going to go in there and kick their butts, and they didn't.
And just a side note on Baker Mayfield, he did get an unsportsmanlike penalty in the game. He got licked. Someone just destroyed him on the field,
Okay.
and he got up after an incomplete pass, and then he gets up talking shit, and they ended up penalizing 15. And that's when they brought up what he said, and the announcers made a big thing, like, oh, kind of laughing about it. But you saw his arrest video, right?
Mm.
Man, I would love to see someone do that to him on the field. Put that cop out there. All right, Penn State. Penn State's ranked at number 4. Oh, by the way, I do think Oklahoma should have dropped after that game. They didn't.
Okay.
They stayed in at number 3. I think Penn State should have jumped them. I think Washington should be right behind them at number 5, personally. Or sorry, at number 4, just from what I saw. And I think USC and Oklahoma both should have came in at 5 and 6. At least drop a couple spots. But anyways, Penn State goes to Iowa.
Right.
And you go to Kinnick, you never know what's going to happen. I mean, they've had
Especially
some
at
upsets
night.
over the last couple years.
Last year they beat Michigan, and they were ranked number 3, and undefeated.
They beat Michigan State at home before.
Yeah.
Michigan State was in the top 5. So they play a sport. I guess not really the best way to say it, but they can play a spoiler. At
And
home,
it was a good
especially.
game, and I thought that they were going to win. I really did. Penn State had to pull some magic to win.
Yeah, that last drive in the game, I mean, that was something else. That last touchdown pass. I mean, he talked about threading the needle. I mean, I don't
On
even,
4th down,
that
with
was
4
unreal.
seconds
I mean,
left.
that guy linebacker that jumped to catch the ball. I mean, he could have been.
Right.
I mean, just centimeters away from touching that ball, and that game would have been over. I would have won. So Iowa's offense is garbage. Their defense is fantastic. So one thing I saw from Penn State that really, to me, kept the game close was when they got on Iowa's side of the field, inside the 30, inside the 20. They vacated the run play, even though Iowa's defense is good, but the rush game was working. Shaquan Barkley is fantastic. I mean, talk about Heisman potential this
Oh
year.
yeah, I mean,
If he's not number 1,
if he's not number 1 right now,
I don't know who
is.
Well, Baker Mayfield
No,
probably
he's
is,
not.
but according to the experts, he probably is. But I mean, he's just unreal on the field. I mean, he was dodging tackles left and right. But then they would tackle him. I mean, they played well on when they had to. But I just don't think they gave the ball to him enough inside the red zone, which I think Penn State probably could have pulled away by a couple scores. But kudos to Iowa. They played the defense they needed to, and they played strong and made it a very, very fun game to watch for both teams. I still think Penn State, the reason why I think they move up is because they played at Iowa, who is known to not only spoil teams, but that's a hostile environment. I mean, really, Baylor is not really that hostile. I mean,
I think the reason Oklahoma's still up there is because of their Week 2 winning at Ohio State.
yeah, Ohio State's number 11 now. They dropped out of the top 10.
Agreed, but at the then number 2 or whatever,
2.
that's gonna keep them up there until somebody beats them.
It will. I mean, I don't disagree with that. I just don't like it.
I agree.
But I guess a win's a win. USC, they beat Cal. Now, USC struggled with Cal at Cal. It is an in-state rival.
Yeah, Cal was coming in undefeated. I think they beat Ole Miss last week.
Yeah, so Cal loses 30-20. Once again, USC, I still have a lot of questions about them, how they're going to do moving forward. I still think they have a lot to prove. They're sitting at number 5.
Sam Darnold's a good quarterback.
Darnold's a good quarterback. They have a good team. It's putting it all together.
Yeah, he just hasn't been playing the Heisman.
Almost lost to Texas. I mean,
Yep.
at home nonetheless. So USC, they beat Cal. Go to Cal, beat them. That was a good game. Washington played Colorado last night. I almost caught the whole game. I couldn't stay up for it. One of those late West Coast games. Well, not even West Coast. It was at Colorado. So it wasn't even like it was West Coast, but it was still a later game on the other side of
yeah, those
Central
games
Time.
usually tend to go kind of crazy, but
37-10. It was actually.
I thought Colorado might keep it a little tighter.
Early on, it was tight. Early on, Colorado got the lead 7-0. Their defense was playing pretty well, and then Washington and Browning really came out and started showing, hey, we are the number 7 team in the country.
We are number 7. We did go to the playoff last year.
I guess number 6. They're number 6 now, but
and we did go to the playoff last year and kept it all the way into the fourth quarter with Alabama.
Yeah,
that was
so
our only
I
loss.
think Washington.
No, twice, but.
I think Washington is going to have to keep proving themselves in the Pac-12 and keep winning games to potentially have it out with either them or USC, potentially going into a playoff. So we'll have to keep watching them and see what Browning can do this year.
Watch out for Washington State this weekend on Friday night.
Yeah, we'll talk about that here in a little bit. Georgia beat Mississippi State. Now, Mississippi State, they were not ranked. And then they came in, they beat LSU, who was, to me, overrated. And they jump in to 17. Then they played Georgia, who was ranked number 11. Georgia, or 11 or 12. I think they're 11. They were ranked number 11. And Georgia beats Mississippi State last night 31-3. They jump up to number 7. So they jumped 4 spots for beating a number 17 ranked team.
It is pretty funny how drastic the.
You would think that Mississippi State was favored in that game or something. But Georgia somehow jumps into the top 10 and moves up 4 spots to number 7. Which to me was warranted, and probably not, but not to say, but Georgia's, they got a lot to prove this year too in the SEC.
Plus, Wisconsin didn't play, so they had to jump them. Oklahoma State lost, so they dropped them.
Yep.
I don't. It's so hard to tell what they're doing.
Well, week to week is just so different.
And like I said, I mean, to me, USC is not the 5th best team in the country right now.
No.
But since they had them ranked so highly to preseason, that's why. Like if they win 30-20, they're just gonna stay there. So it just doesn't. I don't know. I don't see. And I mean, the coaches poll even still had Florida State in the top 25. They haven't.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they've only played 2 games, but they've lost 2 games.
And they lost at home to an unranked NC State.
So you're not in the top 25.
No, you really shouldn't be.
But whatever.
And they're going to lose at least 1 or 2 more games.
Yeah.
And then you have, so Georgia jumps to number 7 after beating Mississippi State. Mississippi State jumps to number 25. And then Michigan beat Purdue. Now this was
pretty close.
This was a game, once again, second half.
Unfortunately, it was on the same time. Well, it was on about the same time as the Husker game, so it was kind of hard to watch. But, yeah, I mean, Purdue was winning 10-7.
Yeah,
for a while in the second half.
And really, yeah, Purdue. I mean, they played all the way up. Once again, it's that outlasting a team all the way up to the fourth quarter and to the end of the game is what seems to be the problem for some of these teams that are keeping it close, and then they can't keep the wheel spinning in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the talent or coaching or something, because some of these teams, powerhouse teams, don't get going right away. But then they have enough talent to win late in the game. Yeah. Where some of these other teams, they're getting going, but then they don't have the talent to.
I don't think it's talent. Maybe it's more of conditioning, or maybe it's play calling. I don't know, but really, I mean, Michigan still has a lot to prove. I'm not impressed with Michigan. I know everyone else is. That it pays attention to the Big Ten. I know the announcers. I know all these experts are big on Michigan still. I think they have a lot to prove, and Purdue showed last night. Not only that, are they up and coming to be good again, but they've kept it close in a couple games this year that not many people probably expected them to play very well.
I mean, obviously they have everybody on the West in their schedule. I'm not sure who else they have crossovers with. Yeah. Obviously they just played in Michigan. But they're playing pretty good football. Some of these teams in the Big Ten West need to watch out because they are more. I mean, they're right there with anybody to make it to the Big Ten championship, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's anybody's game in the West. And then at TCU, so this was, I got to eat my own words from last week and the week before on Oklahoma State. So TCU, I didn't really see a whole lot from them the first couple weeks. and really didn't think they had a chance against Oklahoma State. But, man, they came in and just walloped them. I mean, it's 44-31, which doesn't seem that big, but, I mean, they just – all parts of the field, they look better.
That's the toughest one of the week for me because I picked Oklahoma State to win the Big 12 and make it to the playoff.
They still can.
Well, and they still can.
And they can still make it to the playoff. Just
I guess I didn't necessarily say they were going to make it to the playoff. I just said they were going to win the Big 12. But I thought, if anything, I did think they might slip up again. I did say that they would slip up against somebody. And a team like TCU is not necessarily a bad team to slip up against because they're probably going to be up there.
Oh, yeah.
They're probably going to lose a game or two. But, a good game. And hopefully Oklahoma State can beat Oklahoma and just make things all kinds of crazy.
There you go. I still think Mason Rudolph, I still think he's up there in the Heisman race, even after the loss. Giving up 44 points, I mean, that's a lot of points to give up. Yep. And you got to match that as an offense.
And they had been playing pretty decent on defense before that. Mm-hmm. So I didn't really watch any of that, unfortunately. But obviously TCU's showing some people that they're not messing around.
They might be the team to watch out for in the Big 12 this year. Wisconsin got a bye, so they're stuck in at number 10. Ohio State dropped out from 9 to 11. With Oklahoma State losing, TCU winning, Georgia winning, those two teams jump into the top 10 that weren't in the top 10 before. Florida beat Kentucky 28-27. Now, that was probably a game most people didn't anticipate to be as good as it was. But that was actually a pretty exciting game, and Kentucky came down to really what happened in the very last possession is they actually got across what their field goal kicker, his longest. They got across that line to gain, and then they ended up having a penalty that brought them back. And then they had a 10-yard penalty that brought them back, and then they had one more play, and they didn't quite get it to his line to gain for the kicker. I mean, he maybe came up a couple yards short, and that penalty really killed him because he probably would have made it to win the game. They would have won 30-28, but instead Florida wins on the missed field goal 28-27. I watched most of that fourth quarter, and really Kentucky is an exciting team to watch.
Yeah, they were undefeated going out.
And I really don't think Florida's that great. I mean, I think they're overrated again this year, but that's what I think about them every year because I don't like them. But Kentucky really played good in that game, and they could be a team to watch out for some upsets this year.
Cool.
Potential spoilers.
I like it.
We talked about Florida State losing to NC State 27-21. At home, they're now 0-2 out of the top 25.
Yeah, and I watched most of the game. NC State outplayed them. Florida State's got, since what's-his-name quarterback went down. Francois went down in the first game.
Yep.
They've got a freshman quarterback, and in the first half he really struggled, but he kind of found his groove in the second half.
Yep.
And he was hitting some long passes. He's probably going to be pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But they just didn't have it, and they couldn't stop NC State either. And they have like 7 of the top 100 guys from recruiting in the same year on defense, and they had a couple guys that looked pretty good, but what can you do?
One of the later games yesterday was Oregon playing Arizona State. So Oregon lost last night to Arizona State. It was a pretty close game, and I think it was Jason made the comment. He's an Iowa fan. He made the comment that that's really not that great of a game. Because I said, some good games on tonight. And my response was, Oregon's not really that good. And my response was, well, tell that to the teams that they've whooped up on so far this year. So
that's true.
Not to say that Oregon's bad team or not a good team, but really that was actually a fun game to watch. I saw.
I mean, if a game's close, it's usually pretty fun to watch.
What else? Oh, Notre Dame. So Notre Dame hopped in the top 25.
Beat up on Michigan State.
They beat up on Michigan State, and my buddy Pooty swears up and down that Michigan State has a chance to win the West.
The East?
No, the West.
The West?
So I had to remind him that they're in the East.
Come on, Ryan.
They don't have a chance to win the East. And he thinks they might be a surprise in the East, and I got to disagree wholeheartedly. I appreciate the enthusiasm for your Notre Dame that they beat Michigan State, and Michigan State is that good of a team. Well, I don't see it, and I kept telling you, I don't. Notre Dame, I'm sorry, it's not going to be your year this year. Maybe in a couple years you'll be back in the top 10, but it's hard when you start outside the top 25. Once again, you talk about preseason rankings. It's hard to start outside the top 25 and make your way into the top 10 unless you go undefeated and beat some really good teams, because those teams that are in the top 10 are typically pretty good, and very rarely do they have very many early season losses. So Notre Dame lost by 1 to Georgia.
Lost by 1 to Georgia, and Georgia's climbing the ranks, so
that helps them.
Helped Notre Dame slide into the top 25 at 22, but that's probably a game that they really need to do. If they would have won that, I mean, it'd be interesting to see where they'd be at right now.
Yeah, they'd be 4-0, and they almost beat Boston College, or they beat Boston College, who then almost beat who they play, Clemson. Played against Clemson.
A close game.
Not almost beat them, but it was a close game until the fourth quarter.
Right.
So Notre Dame, you're not a bad team. You have a lot to prove if you want to be considered a contender in the next couple of years. You have a lot to prove this year and moving forward, because people don't take you seriously after you got your shit kicked in the national championship game, however long ago that was. Seems like forever ago, but when Manti Te'o got his clock cleaned in the middle of the defense, couldn't make a tackle. So his invisible girlfriend kept yelling at him.
I was going to say something about
but really, I mean, Notre Dame, you're not a bad team. You have a good young quarterback. You have a good young team. You just have a lot to prove still. And until you start destroying teams and beating them up really good, no one's going to take you seriously again. So
yeah, we'll see. I mean, they always have USC. They always have Stanford. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, they got to win some good games. It's early on.
It is
week 4, so we got a lot of football left.
Yep.
Speaking of a lot of football left this weekend, actually we have some really good games this weekend.
Yes.
Starting Thursday. So Texas plays at Iowa State. Now, neither team is ranked, so that game doesn't matter as far as the playoff goes. But the only reason why I put it in there is because Texas still has a lot to prove as a program, and Iowa State almost beat Iowa, and Iowa's a pretty damn good team. I think that could be a really good game.
Yep, at Iowa State on Thursday night.
More for entertainment purposes, not because not because both teams are awesome, but for entertainment purposes, that could be a really good game on Thursday night.
Yeah,
if you're not doing anything, tune into that game. Friday night, we got Miami at Duke. So Miami is ranked 14-15 right now. I think 15. They haven't moved.
Rightfully so. They haven't played for the last couple weeks.
Yeah. And they've won, so
they're 2-0.
They're playing Duke.
Duke's undefeated.
Duke's undefeated, so this actually could be a really good matchup
at Duke.
They have a slight advantage playing at home, so that could be a fun game to watch. We got Nebraska at Illinois
on Friday night. It's weird
Friday night at Illinois. So
I'm gonna wake up on Saturday and be like,
we'll be doing another segment here in a second once we're done with this, and we'll go into talking about Nebraska and yesterday's game and kind of moving forward for Nebraska, what they have to do to keep the momentum going. USC number 5 playing at number 16 Washington State.
It's like 9:30 on Friday night, so tune in.
You won't want to miss this one. This to me is a game to stay up for because this is for the Pac-12. Sure. Washington State right now, USC. That's all people are talking about. They're not talking about Washington. They're not talking about Washington State winning the Pac-12. It's all USC. This is their year to win the Pac-12, go to the playoff. I disagree. I think either Washington or Washington State are going to be that team that people need to watch out for this year.
Yeah, USC's really going to have to. And last year they did. Last year they picked it up. They got smoked by Alabama right off the bat.
Yep.
And then they maybe lost one other game, and then they ran through the season pretty well and played really well. That's why they had them ranked so high going into this year.
Mm-hmm.
But they're going to have to kind of do a little bit of what they did last year if they're going to win the Pac-12 and make it to the playoff.
Yeah, so that could be a game to watch on Friday night. So 3 good games on Friday. So you're going to be busy Friday night. Don't plan on going out unless you're going to a bar that has the games on. Saturday, Northwestern at Wisconsin. So we got a Big Ten matchup.
Right off the bat, Big Ten West matchup.
Northwestern has not played well this year. Wisconsin's sitting at number 10, so there's a chance for Northwestern to knock off number 10. They won't jump into the top 25, but they have a chance to knock off number 10 and really make a statement that, hey, we may have had struggles early on in the season, but we're still here, we're ready to play. Number 24, Mississippi State at Auburn. Auburn's up there ranked number 13. So Mississippi State and Auburn, I mean, it's 12-13. It's an SEC matchup. This game could be pretty fun to watch. I think if Mississippi State beats Auburn, I mean, that's pretty big for the SEC in general because Mississippi State will have, at that point, one loss, 2 losses?
They only have 1 loss.
They'll have 1 loss, and Auburn will have a loss.
Yeah, that'd probably be bad for the SEC.
It could hurt the SEC, but they have Alabama, so but Mississippi State at Auburn. Then you got Ohio State at Rutgers. Now, don't laugh that I put this game in there. Number 11, Ohio State playing at Rutgers. So Rutgers actually showed good, strong showing their first few weeks of college football. So might be a game to watch out for. Ohio State can't come in expecting that they're going to blow them out of the water. They're going to have to come in with their A game. JT Barrett really hasn't shown that he's a Heisman or a, best quarterback in the league type game. So
it's kind of hard to tell, but Ohio State beat Rutgers by 70 last year. So did Michigan, back-to-back weeks.
But Rutgers is better this year.
Rutgers is better this year, and so they may have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder playing at home and after last year's game. So I think it might.
I still think Ohio
sort
State
of close in the first half, maybe, but by the end of the second quarter, into the second, start of the second half, Ohio State will start playing.
I'm gonna say that Rutgers keep it close through the first half, and then maybe midway through the third is when they start to falter, and Ohio State kind of just takes over. But we'll see. I've been wrong a few times this year already. Iowa at Michigan State. So, hey, here's your chance, Pootie, for Michigan State to show for you your prediction
Irish
on Michigan State being able to win some games in the Big Ten this year. Playing Iowa at home. Iowa's had a good year so far this year. They've been playing strong, and they're playing Michigan State.
Both those teams coming off of losses. It'll see how they can regroup and who comes out on top in that one.
Oh, we didn't talk about Stanford UCLA.
That's right.
Both those teams lost last week. We talked about how there's going to be a chip on the shoulder going into the following week and see who's going to come out on top. And Stanford really wiped the table with UCLA.
It was great.
UCLA just.
I don't like UCLA. So
I don't either. I don't like the quarterback. I just think that there's a lot of chances for Stanford to still have a pretty decent year. Whether they come out in the Pac-12 or not is another decision. But that game really they whooped up on them. So.
What was one?
Ole Miss at Alabama. So this is always just one of those games that you just never know what's going to happen.
Ole Miss always plays tough.
They do.
Even though they're not having as great of a season as they have in the past, they always play tough.
They do.
It's at Alabama, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I wish it was at Ole Miss.
Hey, hope for an upset. That's all we can do.
Yeah, it's always interesting to watch.
And the last one to talk about for next week is Clemson, number 2 at number 12, Va-Tech. So Clemson's had a few games.
At Va-Tech.
Clemson's had a few games at Blacksburg. So Clemson's had a few games where they've started slow, and they've struggled to get the ball rolling before the fourth quarter. So going into Blacksburg, Virginia Tech, Blacksburg is a tough place to play for ranked teams. They've showed that they can play some pretty good games and win some good games in Blacksburg against ranked teams. So
I'm picking Virginia Tech in that one.
Okay, we got it. I think it's going to come down.
Probably blow them out, but no.
I think it's going to come down to one of the last couple plays of the game.
I kind of hope that it's one of those Saturday night, kind of like the Penn State-Iowa game last night. It comes down to the last play of the game.
Yeah.
It's just fun to watch.
It could be. I mean, Clemson still has a lot to prove this year. Va-Tech is trying to show that they're the real deal, sitting at number 12. And we haven't even talked about them that much since when they played Virginia week 1.
They played West Virginia the first week. They were both like 21 and 22, something like that, to start the season. I thought West Virginia would beat them for sure, but they didn't. And now they're undefeated, and some teams are slipping up, so they're just climbing up the ladder.
So Va-Tech's got a chance to really jump into the top 10 especially if they beat Clemson. That's going to be a huge game for them. So look out for that game on Saturday. That's game day.
Game day, 7 o'clock ABC game.
By the way, going to New York City was probably the dumbest thing I've ever seen. I watched like 2 seconds of it and I couldn't watch anymore. And by the way, Kirk Herbstreit, did you see what he was wearing yesterday?
I did not.
Holy cow! Someone shot the couch and put it on him. I mean, it was so bad, and it made him look about 100 pounds overweight. Like the dude looked awful in that suit. I don't know. Someone should have told him to change, put a different jacket on. It was so bad.
I did see, and it's not funny. I mean, I shouldn't laugh, but I don't know if you saw the Corso sign.
Man,
people are
so they look at every sign before they come in. But this person must have made the sign after they got in because...
Oh, yeah, they wouldn't...
There's no way they would have allowed that. So, unsportsmanlike on the fan.
Yeah, that was kind of Bush.
That's kind of Bush. So that's really all we got for the top 10 teams. There were some other good games yesterday, but really next week there's a few good games. But if you want to stick around here, we'll be back here in just a couple minutes. We'll talk about Nebraska, their game yesterday, their win, and then
look forward to the Illinois game this week.
Yep, and then we'll look forward to having you guys back next week. We'll break down the games again. Break out our segment for Nebraska here in just a second, so hang tight, and we'll be right back with you. Go Big Red as always.
Yes.
On the door, I make a bed for more as I bring you to the floor.